What's up, guys? So today I've got my hands on a brand new mini PC powered by the Intel Core i9. So this is the GEEKOM GT13 Pro. Now price wise, the GT13 Pro is priced from $629 onwards. Specifications, you can choose between the Core i7 or the Core i9. I have the top spec model here to review. It's powered by the Intel Core i9, which features 14 cores, 20 threads, reaching clock speeds of up to 5.2 GHz turbo. For graphics, we have the integrated Intel Iris Xe. This mini PC comes with 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, that's dual channel 5600 MHz RAM, and the configuration is 2 × 16 gigs, giving you a total of 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, and that can be upgraded to a maximum of 64 gigs. Now for storage, we have a 2 TB M.2 SSD drive, that's a PCIe Gen 4, and 2 TB is the maximum supported in that slot. Furthermore, there is a spare M.2 2242 SSD slot, so you can stick in another drive in that slot if you need to. This mini PC features Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and you have a 2.5 gigabit LAN. This is running Windows 11 Professional and supports quad 4K display output. Now quick look at what you get inside the box. So inside the box you will find an HDMI cable, a metal VESA mount and a bag of screws so you can mount the mini PC on the back of your monitor. This comes with a rather small compact power supply, and I'll give you a close-up of the voltage information, and you also get a power cable to go with it. And last but not least, the mini PC itself. So design wise, it's rather compact in size, as you guys can see. You've got this aluminium housing going all the way around, and it's finished in this rather nice space grey colour. GEEKOM logo engraved. The back plate and the bottom are made from plastic. Everything else is finished in metal, and I love how the corners are rounded. To give you an idea of size, this is my Mac Mini M2. If we just place it in one of the corners, you can see how small the GEEKOM is in comparison. On the front, we've got two USB 3.2 Type A ports, a headphone/microphone combo jack, and a physical power button. On the side, we've just got some vents. On the back, you've got power socket, a USB 4 port on top. You've got an HDMI 2.0, 2.5 gigabit LAN. We've got another USB 3, we've got a USB 2 port, and we have another USB 4 Type-C port in that corner, and another HDMI 2.0. So 2 HDMI ports and 2 USB 4 Type-C ports. They are USB 4 standard, and they actually support up to 8K resolution. So you can have 2 screens running at 8K at the same time, or you could have all 4 screens running at 4K at the same time. So the options are there. If we keep going, you've got a full-size SD card slot, and that brings us back to the front. And here is a quick look at the bottom of the mini PC. We're going to check out the internals. So let's remove the 4 sticky feet. Okay, so now you can see 4 screws exposed. We're just going to quickly open them up. There we go. So just to the right of the sticker, we have a Wi-Fi antenna cable, which you do not want to pull off, so just be careful when you take off the lid. Okay, so to access the internals, we still need to remove more screws. I would start by removing this tape, so it gives you a bit more slack to play with. Right, 4 more screws by the looks of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's remove this cover. Okay, so we should be able to lift this off carefully. Right, that should just come right off. There's nothing connected to it, which is good. So here is your 2 TB SSD drive, Acer branded. So Windows is installed in this drive. If you swap it out, you would have to reinstall Windows yourself. Alternatively, you have a spare M.2 2242 slot over here, so you can stick a fresh drive into there to give you additional space. Nice to have that spare slot. Here are your 2 sticks of RAM, so configuration 2 × 16 gigs of RAM. I believe that is dual channel RAM. So you can swap these both out for 32 gigs each, so giving you a maximum of 64 gigs of RAM. So nice future-proof upgrades there. So first of all, I ran a boot up speed test, and you can see on screen exactly how long it took to boot up to the Windows desktop. Okay, so this is Windows 11 Professional. We're at the desktop, You can see I've installed all my favorite apps, and you can see a whole bunch of games I've already installed as well. So this is the full version of Windows, and it comes with all the usual Windows apps, and you've got access to the App Store so you can download all your favorite games and apps. So first of all, let's go ahead and check out the system properties. So you can see there Windows 11 Professional. The processor is the 13th Gen Intel Core i9, that's the 13900H. You can see the clock speed, installed RAM, 32 gigs of RAM, 64-bit operating system, activated and ready to use. Alright, quick look at the system storage info. We have 2 terabytes of internal storage, from which 1.81 terabytes are actually usable, and I have 1.13 terabytes free to use after installing all of those big games. Now the second drive you're seeing is my 64 gig flash drive, which contains all my 4K samples, and that is exactly what we're going to be testing next. So let's play some 4K video samples from a USB drive, starting off with the usual high bitrate jellyfish samples. Here is 160 megabits per second, and you can see it's playing back with no sweat, no issues at all, as expected. Let's try the second file, which is 180 megabits per second high bitrate jellyfish demo. And again, playing back super smooth. So let's go back and try the largest sample. This one is 400 megabits per second, high bitrate 4K jellyfish sample, and it's playing back like it's nothing. So plenty of power and performance to play back high bitrate 4K videos if you need to do so. Also, I tested some 4K samples with different file and HDR formats, and they all worked great out of the box using the default media player, so I did not even have to download any codecs to make this work. And while we're here, I also tested out the AV1 codec, and you can see the video sample is playing back fine. So no codecs needed, didn't have to install anything. It works straight out of the box using the default media players, which is great. And here's a quick look at the display resolution. You can see 3840 by 2160 is selected, so screen resolution is 4K. Okay, so we're moving on to some YouTube streaming, starting off with the usual Costa Rica clip. And as you guys can see, YouTube does support 4K 60 with HDR.
जो भूतों से डरती है, इन भूतियों का तो फायदा उठाना चाहिए। भाभी
This isn't done until they're dead.
So I tested Netflix from the web browser, and it does support 4K HDR streaming with spatial audio. So moving on to some gaming. First game we're playing is GTA 5. I have the resolution set to 1080p and the graphics set to very high, and it is 60Hz refresh, and you can see we're achieving just over 47 frames per second, and you can see the TDP peaking at around 32 watts. So game is playing absolutely fine, pretty decent frame rates. But this is a 10-year-old game, so let's try something a bit more recent. Okay, so the next game we're playing is A Plague Tale. This game is quite graphically intense. I have the resolution set to 1080p and the graphics preset is set to low, and you can see we're achieving just around 20 frames per second. Now the lowest frame rate that I would consider playing this game would be around 30 frames per second, and you could achieve this if you drop the resolution down to 720p, but then you will be compromising on how the game looks. Okay, so let's try something else. So the next game we're playing is Undisputed Boxing, resolution set to 1080p and the graphics set to its lowest. And the game plays okay at around 37 frames per second. And you can see the TDP peaking at around 35 watts. If you drop down the resolution, you can increase that frame rate. But again, this is what you can expect from the Intel Iris Xe graphics. Alright, so now we're playing WWE 2K24. Resolution is set to 1080p and the graphics is set to standard/low. We have shadows off, reflections off, and depth of field off, and that's how we're able to achieve 60 frames. And you can see the TDP peaking at around 33 watts. So the game is playing okay, considering I have switched off many of the graphic features. If I leave those graphic features on, it's quite slow motion gameplay. It's hardly playable. If I switch on some of those features like shadows and reflections and depth of field, then we're achieving a much slower frame rate to the point where it's not really playable. So that should give you a pretty good idea of what this mini PC can handle gaming wise. So that brings us to our benchmarks, beginning with Geekbench single core score of 2359 and multi-core score of 11301. And in the Antutu benchmark test, we achieved 870k. So let's see how this compares with the other mini PCs of this year. So this is my top mini PC chart for 2024, allowing you to compare the price, specs and features of all the other new mini PCs reviewed this year. The ranking is based on benchmark scores. So looking at Antutu, Geekbench and Passmark, I give it an average and the mini PC gets ranked accordingly. So as you guys can see, the GEEKOM GT13 Pro has ranked at position 8 on this chart. Now the Intel Core i9 is of course very powerful, but the integrated graphics do not perform on par. Now you can view any of my charts online at chickstech.com and read them at your leisure and completely free of charge. There you have it guys, that was the GEEKOM GT13 Pro. Standout features for me, the Core i9 performance, supports quad 4K display out, the form factor is nice and compact and certainly looks smart on your desk. You get plenty of connectivity with 2 USB 4 ports, a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port, cooling fan and a few upgrade options. Performance is very good for everyday tasks, so it's great for general web browsing, office applications, coding, graphics and some light video editing work. AAA games can be played, most older titles at 1080p high resolution to achieve 60 frames per second, or the latest titles can be played at 1080p or even 720p, but the graphics needs to be set at the lowest. Windows 11 Professional comes pre-installed and ready to use. And with all of that being said, that's all for this video. Any questions, you guys know what to do. And if you want to see more of my latest and greatest unbiased tech reviews, hit the like button, sub to the channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.